They said the house was cleared. They lied. A horror true story. Summer 2019, I was working a home care case in a small town in the middle of nowhere. My client was a 35-year-old quadriplegic man who had an accident at birth. He was pretty much entirely dependent on his caregivers. His parents were his primary caregivers, but because they worked long and irregular hours at a gas station, they had to hire a night nurse to cover the overnight shift. It was physically demanding work and required a lot of patience, but it paid well and had good tips. So I didn't mind. On my first night, I was getting my client settled in bed after his evening shower when his mom came into his room. She looked at me for a beat too long and said, "Thank you for coming back. We're really glad you took this job. It's been hard to find someone willing to do this kind of work." "It's fine," I replied. "I got off work early and I like working with your son. Don't worry, he'll be in good hands while you're gone." She nodded and left the room. I found it odd that she didn't say goodnight or even make eye contact, but I shrugged it off and went back to my notes. About 2 hours later, I heard shuffling in the hallway outside of my client's room. I ignored it, assuming it was just his parents coming back to check on us. Then the door slowly opened, and a tall, gaunt woman with long, greasy hair stepped inside. She was wearing a dirty nightgown and her feet were bare. "Who are you?" I asked, taken aback by her sudden appearance. "I'm sorry, but I don't remember you being a part of this family." "I'm here to take over for you," she said, gesturing to the bed with a long, gnarled finger. Her eyes were vacant and soulless. "What?" "No, I'm not leaving. I don't think I've met you before. Who are you?" The woman didn't answer. She just kept staring at me expectantly. Suddenly, my client began thrashing around and making loud noises. The woman flinched and screamed, "He's waking up. Hurry, get him back down there." Before I could process what she was saying, she grabbed my wrist and pulled me out of the room, down the hall, down a flight of stairs and into the basement. At the bottom of the stairs was a heavy wooden door. She pushed it open and disappeared inside. My client's room was at the top of the stairs in the only windowed room in the basement. I could see a sliver of moonlight revealing a dusty old mattress on the floor. In the corner was a rusty metal table with a single chair facing it. On the wall hung a large crucifix, its eyes seeming to follow my every move. It dawned on me that this must have been the ritualistic abuse den from my client. His nightmares that his parents were trying to protect him from. I tried to call 911, but I had no service in that part of the basement. Just then, the lights flickered on, and the woman was standing in front of me with my client's parents. "You should leave now," his dad said, his face pale and drawn. "We'll take it from here." Confused but relieved, I rushed upstairs to call 911 from the bathroom. As I dialed 911, I could hear screams and thrashing coming from the basement. I told the operator what had happened and that I needed police and medical help ASAP. Then I ran back downstairs to help my client. But when I reached the basement door, it was locked. I pounded on it frantically, screaming for them to let me in, but they didn't. That the screams in the basement suddenly stopped, and all I could hear was the sound of heavy breathing. The operator stayed on the line with me as I tried to kick the door open. Suddenly it swung inward and I fell onto the basement floor. The woman was standing in front of me, her eyes wide and glistening. "She's dead," she whispered, her voice raspy and weak. "They killed her." The operator in my ear yelled for me to get out of there, but I couldn't move. I wanted to ask what she meant, but all that came out was a hoarse croak. That's when I noticed blood dripping from the ceiling, soaking the mattress below. The image of the bloody mattress and the smell of copper instantly filled my mind with clarity. I screamed at the top of my lungs and sprinted for the stairs. Outside, I collapsed on the lawn and watched in horror as the woman walked slowly toward me, her arms outstretched, her eyes gleaming. I don't remember the rest. The police report says I must have passed out because the next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital bed with my head in a neck brace. Apparently, I had extensive injuries, including a punctured lung, several broken ribs, and a deep laceration on my arm. The doctors believe that I was dragged across the basement floor by my ankle, which explains why I have no recollection of how I got to the hospital. As for the others, the woman died at the scene from multiple stab wounds. The parents committed suicide in their jail cells. And my client? Well, he was moved to a different facility and given round-the-clock care. He still has nightmares, but now he's safe. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself.